other things that we're going to talk about from the engineering side. But those are two of the issues. I'll come back with a couple more, but I'm going to kind of open it up to any other questions that the team has about anything else that's really fundamentally important to them in terms of how we improve. And I'll yield to Reverend Gass, who's used to be our chairman of the board, but he's a legend throughout the state. Waukegan, he has a street named after him, and he hasn't even passed away yet. So they don't really get that when he passed away. So we'll yield to Reverend Gass and any suggestions he has.
Yeah, Omar, one of the things I have is that several years ago you all had a program for the engineering technicians program,
right,
which you ran through the local colleges.
Right.
We ran 2 sessions up in College Lake County in Waukegan.
Okay.
Are you all looking at doing that because of if you get the capital bill,
right,
which I think we are,
right,
you are going to need more infusion of engineering tech. So you look at the possibility of doing that program again because it was very successful.
And it was, right now, the number of employees, the head count or the limit, we are approaching the available head count. We are hiring, yes, engineers and technicians, new ones, because we lost a lot of people too at the same time. The 2-year program you're talking about, or is that the 10-class program?
Right. It was the 10-week program that we did at the local college.
At the local college. Yeah, we're still hiring from the local colleges at the 2-year program though. If they have free engineering or free engineering technology, we're still making that available. The other side of it is we had a little bit of an issue as a department on the personnel side from years ago, where we have a federal monitor who's in charge of us right now. That doesn't, they're not telling us not to hire engineers and technicians. It's just the process is different from what we used to do in the past. That is slowing our momentum down just a little bit. It's still moving forward, but everything we do, as far as hiring, we have to go and get the okay from this federal monitor. Even our engineers coming out of college, the numbers where they're going to be located. So that's the side issue. It's not stopping us from hiring people. But the 2-year program in colleges, I do remember that. That was a few years back, and that's something we absolutely want to look at.
Any other particular questions from the group as it relates to minority participation, how we improve that?
Well, first I want to, the woman stated that, I wrote it down here, that supported services will pay dues to Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce. So can you provide that information?
I'll give you some, before you guys leave, I'll give you note cards with how to access that.
Okay, because Larry, I can get my dues paid.
Well, to help, we have a limit, and we
okay.
pay up to $5, but we do QuickBooks and all kinds of things that we will do reimburse back to.
And when I started off, I did use supportive services, so the other thing that I wrote down here was Omar, the secretary. You mentioned IDOT has 73 airports. I know there's 2 firms in here that have airport capabilities, which is Millhouse and Infrastructure.
Right.
So, we have designers on board,
right,
that knows how to design runways and stuff.
Right.
How can we get involved in doing some of this airport work? We see bulletins coming out for highways,
right,
but I never see anything come out for airports.
Because it's a different setup. The money still goes, airport in general, 95% of their funding is federal. Only 5% of it is state.
Okay.
But how it works is with the airport authority. Each and every airport have their own authority, and that's where the funding goes.
Like
so
DuPage County.
DuPage County, you name it.
Okay.
Here in the Springfield Airport,
okay,
the funding goes to the authority,
okay,
to the airport authority. That's each and every one of those locations. That's one. They do the selection. The selection is typically done through the airport authority for the engineering department.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
Yeah. One thing we could do is we could link you up with our airport people, and they could provide you more information.
Okay.
So talking directly to Jamie Reed would be Reed for, we were talking about.
Absolutely.
But Jamie Reed.
Jamie Reed
Yeah, but
doesn't get
that's
funded.
O'Hare.
O'Hara,
So she
Midway.
wouldn't
Yeah,
do our
Midway.
little, our
Yes.
local
That's
one.
Yes.
separated.
Yes.
You mentioned also transit and commuter rail as
Right.
part of IDOT's, funding, and you guys support that. And that's something I'm not aware of.
What?
So could you?
It's similar to the airport setup.
Okay.
All the transit authorities, say up in Chicago, they get their funding, mostly federal funding, through us. I think 10% of it is state funding, right? So it goes through us to each other, to CTA, for example, to RTA. RTA is a governing body up north. And from RTA it goes down to everybody else. PACE, Metra. So and we have the oversight.
Okay.
As a state public agency, we have the oversight over that. Similarly, Mike, all their engineering work or construction work is done under their authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. So we talked about the DDE and mainstream. I know that Millhouse is not a DDE anymore, so they're looking for a prime award.
Right.
Infrastructure is currently
Qualified consultant we have today, we are at 398.
the thing that I would say about
Right.
that is, I got to be careful about
Right.
this because we do business in other states,
Right.
but the other states also are pretty much, how can I say, the local established firms that are established in the state of
Right,
Illinois.
right.
They pretty much have a upper hand.
Upper hand.
They-
They probably have some sort of some home rule.
Yeah. So the other one that I wrote down here was the ADA contracts, and you're right on track for that.
Right.
We have an office in New York City, and they're about to do their ADA compliance, which is about $5 billion for New York. But I went to a meeting there, and it was with small contractors.
Right.
DDE contractors,
Right.
small contractors, so they're gonna let a lot of these ADA projects out to small contractors. So how do you legislate or create a policy where the big firms don't go after it? Because they will go after
Right,
everything.
and they will.
So how do you?
I think that's the small business initiative
Okay.
I was talking about. They're going to be part of that program. It's already an established program, it's just a lot smaller though.
Okay, because ADA sidewalks, again, in New York, they had the simple,
Right.
and they had
Yeah.
the complex ADA.
Right, right.
Because, and so even for the complex ADA, they were, so when you talk about small business, I was wondering, what are the limits for small business? So, for a construction company.
We're still working on that, and I can't remember what the construction, for the 14 million, for the, on the construction side.
No, 14 million is your, there's two issues there. One is, of course, you gotta be pre-qualified with the department, right?
Right.
And then the other one is there's a net revenue requirement, which I thought was 14 million. To be qualified to be qualified to go after the small business.
Net revenue on the cash basis, because cash is king, right? So net revenue on the cash basis, not only.
I think that's the case.
Let's double check on it.
We will. And so what we're looking at though, the construction side and even on the consulting side, because we've never done SBIs on consulting.
And I'm curious about that too, on the consulting side.
So we're just in the planning stages
Okay.
with federal highways to see what they'll allow, what they won't allow, and
And
those
how
kind
is
of
that
things.
gonna be different from the DBE program, right?
Because like with our SBIs, we don't put a DBE goal on.
Okay,
But what we do allow is, I think you have to be you do not have to be pre-qualified, and there's some
On the
caveats
construction
there
side.
that we allow that makes it even more palatable for firms, for DBE firms to come in and bid as a prime.
okay.
Like the secretary said, we discussed the sidewalk thing, and so you're right, we looked at taking that out of a big contract and even doing some additional training, because we've had firms that have really gotten hurt because they didn't do the ADA sidewalk compliant according to federal guidelines, and it had African American male that almost lost it here because he had to take like 10 or 12 of them out. So what we're going to do is offer additional training from federal highways to say this is how you have to do it if you're going to go after these contracts.
And I have one more, Larry. Since IDOT's disparity study shows that African American firms are the least at the bottom in regards to state contracts and stuff, how do you, on your selection committee, when you're vetting these projects, how do you, what's the words that I'm looking for? How do you make sure that the playing field is level? So one of the suggestions that I have, I know you guys have a selection committee, is there someone on the selection committee that just is there to ensure that the minority, woman, black, Latino, but we're talking about black today, that we're included in the selection process. So I see the selection committee, but I don't see anyone particularly on the selection committee whose focus is on inclusion.
That's a good question. The inclusion is the entire committee's focus, not one single. I'm part of the entire committee being a diverse committee. It speaks for itself. The three from the public, one is African American, one is Hispanic, and one is white Caucasian. What we're missing there, we used to have a female public member that I would like to add, a female public member. On the IDOT side, we have African American, we have several female bureau chiefs, specifically when they come in front of the committee. So there's diversity on the committee itself. And when I was handling it, and Director Lodi is handling it now, the understanding is the diversity for the entire committee, not for one single person. Diversity is important. We cannot have selection that doesn't have diversity in it.
On the regional level?
On the regional level too?
Yes, sir. Well, because again, on the regional level, they decide who's gonna get what.
The region will come and present their top three.
Right.
They don't do the selection, the committee does.
We're working on a portal. You can go out there and look and see when that prime's been paid and talk to them and remind them. Sometimes firms don't want us to make the call for that very reason. I might not get work again, but you have to decide if you're running now, you want to wait, or you want to make the phone call. And that's not to say you don't have to file legal paperwork or whatever. Sometimes there's some other ways we can go around doing it without you getting caught up. So.
Have you been accessing our portal?
Yes.
Checking to see if the contract
So they've gotten theirs then?
Yes, but I'm speaking for all subcontractors.
Okay.
We might be in a position to kind of float ourselves.
Absolutely.
But this would crush somebody else and close their doors.
Right. And this is the reason why we went to making sure, because it was happening throughout the country. So Federal Highways really basically told all the state DOTs, you guys need to develop something so a DB can look out there and see whether or not that prime's gotten paid.
Yes.
And to know when his money should be coming there at.
And that's my thinking, that you put something in place where, in general, you're just checking with the primes and say, have all of the contractors gotten paid? Send me receipts that they all got paid. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not the bad guy.
And we have done that. Give me your contact information.
Right. Okay.
We have done that, yes.
Do
Or we do a spot check. I can call 3 of them.
Yeah,
There's
do
been
that.
one and say, hey, we're doing a spot check. Want to
Yes.
make sure your subs are getting paid so it's not pointed at individual projects. But you have to let us know.
Yeah.
If we don't know, we can't go.
What I would tell people when it comes to getting paid, be very, very aggressive. And if they like you or not, that doesn't matter. Go for your money. And go for your money. And matter of fact, if you don't pay me, I don't want to work for you anymore. And so, and I don't want to be anonymous about it. If if I did a good job, and there's no issues with my performance or anything, then I expect to get paid. And I will let you know I expect to get paid, you know. And so there's no shame in that. And matter of fact, I don't want to do business with people that don't pay me in a timely fashion. So that's, you create the respect too, between you and the contractor. And the words get around that if this contractor can pay you that way, he will tell his buddies the same thing, and you be out, you know, they get paid in 30 days, and you won't get paid for another 6 months. And so there's no shame in asking for your money, especially if you did a great job.
Yeah, guys, and I'm going to speak because I know our time is at hand for our next meeting.
Okay, I want to agree with what Mr. Sutton was saying, but my concern is that what are you going to do about the prime contractors? You know and I know that if you push too hard, all they're going to do is blackball that subcontractor.
Right.
Because all of the primes know each other, they work together, but it's not about the prime, it's about the subs. They're DBEs, they're trying to make a living, run their business, but what is happening to the prime contractors?
If they don't pay like they're supposed to pay,
Right.
is that what you mean? We withhold their money.
You withhold the money.
But
Okay,
we withhold all, not just your money.
right,
We'll stop a pay estimate and the prime won't get anything
okay.
for any of the work he's done if he's not paying the subcontractors. And that's not a DBE thing, that's a subcontractor
No, and I
thing. Yeah,
understand.
that's all subcontractors.
And I know the subcontractors are concerned about the retaliation,
Sure.
the blackball, I mean, and it's not fair because they could do quality work and that prime could say that they did not do quality work because they're upset because they've been pushing about getting paid.
Well, the prime can say what he wants to about quality work, but that's why we have resident engineers out on the project that
Okay.
are monitoring
That's
that.
how people will.
Yeah, right, that are evaluating that, so.
We had, you have the strong supportive service, because when we have the big I-74 project.
Right.
And private contractors, we ran into a problem where Walsh Construction Company and maybe UCM would blame the subcontractor for not getting the job done.
Right.
We were already on site, and before they could say, look, unless we're lying, we were out there, so we know we didn't do that, that's not the case. But we have to, one of the things I think is important, I'm going to yield to our friend from C3, is that we have to be able to organize, mobilize, and strategize. If you have a strong chamber, there's a lot of times the chamber simply calls in a general contractor, if you haven't got paid, a phone call from me gets you paid. Okay, real simple, it's not real complicated. I make the phone call, say, guess what? I got a member who hasn't got paid. It's important to me that you get this resolved. We touch base with IDOT, and people get paid. It happens all the time. But if you're not leveraging the organization and strengthening the organization, then they will always be able to minimize you and attack, because it's just you. When, no one wants to attack a pack of wolves. And I'm just keeping it real simple because we have an honest conversation. If we're going to grow and protect our own interests, then we have to do things a little bit different and build our own infrastructure where we have enough to be relevant and build enough relationships that we can call Omar, call Pam, but also call our organization and say, look, hey, I'll make that phone call for you. And believe me, when you make that phone call, I don't care who's in the construction business, they'll know who people are. And they know who not to create a problem for, because there's all kinds of ways to play the game. And you just got to know how to play the game a little bit better. And I'm going to yield to C3, and then we're going to summarize the things we have, and then we're going to let the secretary move on, because we got to get to our next meeting.
I was just going to echo what you were saying. Like, yes, we'd love to punish bad actors, but in a system this large, it's almost impossible to do that. So to your point, being a part of the chamber gives you the voice that you need to fight and push. I actually walked away from a very large contract that was never going to benefit me. And at first I said, but I lose in this. But I actually don't, because I have a team of people who are behind me, supporting me and pushing me forward. So there's gonna always be bad actors, but we need to get with the chamber, if you will, and have our voice be heard through that.
The road builders is a very powerful organization. Believe me, they don't have to call very many people. When they want to get something done, they're powerful enough that people listen to them throughout the state. You have to create the same environment where you're relevant enough. And like we say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And often we're on the menu because we don't know how to get to the table and be relevant. That's why you're here today. This is relevancy here by you coming, sitting with the secretary, and getting a chance to talk, but also make sure that that's not just a feel-good week. As much as I like Omar, I have a responsibility to the group here to move Black participation forward. And we count on Omar, and because all of us going to get hit if they pass the gas tax. Guess what? They ain't going to discriminate when it comes to going to the gas pump and collecting their gas tax money, right? They are not discriminate when it comes to the contracts and opportunity. So we want to be clear about that, make sure we're talking to the Hispanic legislator. Sandoval is a great champion. He's going across the state talking about this issue in terms of the capital budget. You got the Black Caucus. We got to leverage what we have and maximize our potential so we can get a return on our investment. So Omar, what I like to do is kind of summarize for the group and then kind of come back to it, because I know there's IT opportunities that Charles back there we can talk about at a different time. But here's the thing that we talked about, and you tell me if we're wrong, guys, correct me. Separation of goals, we want to come back and talk about that with a real meaningful fashion, Mr. Secretary. The separation of the EEO officer, we think, it used to be that way, it's changed that way, whether when you leave, there's ought to be a policy. I think it makes more sense because I think it's a conflict of interest. Clearly, if I got to report to, if you evaluate me and I'm doing the right thing, but you got to evaluate me, it's a problem. So I'd like for us to have a really meaningful conversation about that. Reverend Gass talked about training program for the engineering techs. We'd like to follow back up with that. I think you did give us your rationale for that. And protection of the subs. I think we got to be intentional about protecting the subs. So we'd like to come back and talk about how we can do something. It doesn't hamstring you guys, but maybe helps the subs so they can become a prime and have more competition and create greater pricing pressure to come down. Was there anything else that we missed that was germane to the group in terms of our conversation with the Secretary today that we would follow back up on? And then we're also going to have our meetings, Mr. Secretary, to come back and meet again on these issues like we had mentioned with the past Secretary of Transportation.
Absolutely. You may have hit it already, Larry, but can we look at metrics on when we meet with Secretary metrics with regards to African American participation on contracts with IDA? Just kind of keeping track of the metrics. Are the numbers going up? Are the numbers going down? How much is sub? How much is prime?
And Mr. Secretary, what we can do is give you kind of the metrics that we think looking at, that we can look at, and then, because I know I used to call you and others and say, hey, I need this information. And my role on the procurement policy board, obviously, is a part of the responsibility I have to look at all procurement in that process. And that gives me the authority by which to do so. So we surely would like to be able to identify some places that we would want you to identify that we can work on. And I think at that point, guys, in order to stay on time and get us back on track, we would thank you, Omar, for you and your team for coming, sitting down and talking. And we also, we're glad to see that the Chief of Staff is
I made it through the meeting this time. I didn't have to leave early. I appreciate that too.
Last year, we were kind of concerned that we were
heard hours
afraid
away.
of some conflict, but he was just, I don't know, again, we're glad you're doing fine.
Well, thank you.
And guys, we have a very simple issue. This is not complicated. We want to be your best friend, not your worst enemy. But we can become big enemies if we need to. But we don't want to do that. We want to work with you because our people deserve to participate where the dollars have created the opportunity. And all we ask for is some equity and fairness across the board and be consistent with it. And there's some things we know that can't be done. There's some things we know that can be done. We just ask that you consider what we do as important and that we work together to make the state of Illinois a better place for everybody. And that's our pledge. We want to work with you on a capital budget. Call us, and we will gladly bring our troops out to push for a capital budget, as long as you make sure that there's something in it for us. Okay.
Right.
And this makes good businesses, right?
Right, it does.
Okay. Road bills feel the same way we feel.
That's true.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks a lot.